We all know Cristiano Ronaldo today, right? He's a billionaire athlete, an absolute footballing god, and he literally has over 1 billion followers on social media. It's crazy. But to really grasp the evolution of this guy, we have to look past the glitz and the records for a minute. We actually have to go all the way back to an incredibly fragile beginning on the tiny Portuguese island of Madeira. This was a place where the stakes were literally life and death, and where the world came incredibly close to never knowing his name at all. Let's dive into this explainer and see how it all unfolded. His own mom, Dolores Aveiro, actually said that if he hadn't made it in football, he would have been a bricklayer. But honestly, it goes even deeper than that. The family was living in severe, crushing poverty. His father struggled with severe trauma and alcoholism after serving in the military. And because of this extreme hardship, Dolores actually requested to have Cristiano aborted, a procedure her doctor refused to perform. So we're talking about a kid born into circumstances that strongly suggested he wouldn't amount to much of anything, let alone become a global titan. To really anchor where that kid from Madeira is today, just wrap your head around this number, 970. That is 970 official senior career goals Cristiano Ronaldo has scored to date for club and country. He is officially the top goal scorer in the entire history of the sport. So how exactly do you get from an impoverished household in Madeira to 970 professional goals? Let's trace that unbelievable path. Starting right at the beginning with Section 1, the boy from Madeira. Young Cristiano grew up in a house where money was incredibly tight. He shared a single, cramped room with all three of his older siblings, using street football as his one and only escape. When he eventually moved 1,000 kilometers away to Sporting Lisbon's academy, he faced a massive wave of early hurdles. Get this, he was so hungry at times, he would actually wait outside a local McDonald's at night begging for leftover burgers. He was bullied for his thick island accent, he struggled academically, and he was even expelled at 14 after throwing a chair at a teacher he felt had disrespected him. But the absolute biggest hurdle, that was physical. At 15 years old, he was diagnosed with tachycardia. It's a racing heart condition that absolutely should have forced him to give up football entirely. But instead, he underwent laser heart surgery, was discharged just hours later, and incredibly, he was back on the pitch within days. With his heart fixed, his drive just went into total overdrive. Even with coaches telling him he was way too skinny and weak to make it, Ronaldo completely defied the odds. In a single season at Sporting CP, when he was just 16 years old, he played for the under-16s, the under-17s, the under-18s, the B team, and made his senior team debut. It was an unprecedented, rapid ascent. Which brings us to Section 2, the Manchester United breakthrough. This insane rise caught Sir Alex Ferguson's eye after a totally mesmerizing preseason friendly in 2003, and that led to a record-breaking £12 million transfer to Manchester United. But, the jump to the brutal, highly physical English Premier League wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Early on, BBC pundit Alan Hansen famously questioned if his tricks and party pieces were actually effective. Ronaldo took heavy criticism from the British media for all his elaborate stepovers and showboating. It even led to actual training ground clashes with star striker Ruud van Nistelrooy, who was endlessly frustrated that this young winger always preferred dribbling over just crossing the damn ball. But here is the real game changer. Crucially, he responded to that criticism by completely transforming from a flashy winger into an obsessively driven winner. We're talking strapping literal weights to his ankles in training to build up explosive strength. He faced the famous hairdryer treatment and tough love from Sir Alex Ferguson, which really forced him to abandon all the unnecessary showboating. He obsessed over his positioning, his finishing, his free kick technique, and he set himself a massive, almost absurd personal target of 40 goals in a single season. Well, he didn't just hit that target, he shattered it, 42. That's how many goals he scored in his unbelievably explosive 2007-2008 season. He wasn't just a talented prospect anymore, he was officially the deadliest player on the planet. That incredible run carried Manchester United to the Premier League title and the Champions League final in Moscow, and it earned Ronaldo his very first Ballon d'Or at just 23 years old. But as soon as he reached the absolute mountaintop in England, a new challenge called. Could he conquer Spain and actually overthrow the greatest team ever assembled? This is the core narrative tension that defined the next whole decade of his life. In 2009, he made a world record £80 million move to Real Madrid. His singular mission? To dismantle Pep Guardiola's legendary Barcelona and face off against his ultimate rival, Lionel Messi. That kicks off Section 3, peak CR7, Real Madrid. Over his 9 years in Madrid, Ronaldo firmly cemented himself as an all-time great. He was constantly pushing and being pushed by Messi in a rivalry that elevated both of them to completely unprecedented heights. But to survive the massive physical toll of aging and dominate Spanish football, he had to evolve again. Under managers like Carlo Ancelotti and Zinedine Zidane, he basically shed the skin of the heavy dribbling winger, making those long, exhausting runs down the flank. Instead, he transformed into a deadly, calculating poacher. He conserved his energy, utilizing incredibly efficient off-the-ball movement, central runs, and lethal one-touch finishes right inside the penalty box. But don't get it twisted. He was still an absolute physical marvel. 2.93 meters. That is the ridiculous height he reached on a record-breaking header against Manchester United in 2013. The guy literally leapt higher than the crossbar, just hanging in the air with superhuman athleticism. So as he adapted his ground game, he simultaneously evolved into the most terrifying aerial threat in football history. And this whole transformation was powered by an unmatched work ethic. Even manager Jose Mourinho, despite all the rumors of friction between the two, stated on the record, "Coaching him was the highlight of my career. He is the most professional player I've ever met." It was this relentless drive and obsessive professionalism that propelled Ronaldo to win 4 more Ballon d'Or awards and 4 more Champions League titles during his era at Madrid. When you look at the raw data from his Real Madrid era, it's honestly hard to process. 438 matches played and 450 goals scored. Just let that sink in for a second. He actually outscored his own game count during a 9-year period in one of the toughest leagues in the world, picking up 16 major trophies along the way. It's a complete statistical anomaly that perfectly validates his status as arguably the greatest player in the club's history. So, after you conquer Spain, where do you even go? Well, in 2018, he shocked the entire footballing world with a €100 million move to Juventus, which raised a very loud, very skeptical question: could a 33-year-old really dominate Italy? The skepticism was massive. Many people just assumed his best days were behind him and that the notoriously defensive Italian league would finally, inevitably, slow him down. Let's explore that in Section 4, Conquering New Leagues. Spoiler alert here, he didn't slow down at all. He actively defied age, he won Serie A twice, and he became the fastest player in Juventus history to reach 100 goals, eventually finishing as the league's top scorer. Then, at age 36, he made a dramatic return to the grueling English Premier League. Playing in a heavily struggling Manchester United side, he still managed to score his 800th career goal and net 24 goals across all competitions. That performance earned him a spot in the PFA Team of the Year at 37 years old. Truly remarkable. Now, the end of his European club career did get quite turbulent. Ronaldo openly expressed feeling a lack of support, stating he was no longer considered in the same way as he was at the beginning. During that second stint at Manchester United, reports heavily point to a highly fractured relationship with the new manager, Erik ten Hag, who frequently used Ronaldo as a substitute. This whole situation culminated in a very controversial interview, where Ronaldo stated he felt betrayed, and that led to a mutually agreed, yet undeniably bitter, termination of his contract right before the 2022 World Cup. So, suddenly leaving Europe completely clubless, he makes a move that absolutely stunned the globe. A massive, estimated €200 million per year transfer to Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League. Immediately, the public assumption was framed around one big question. Was this move to Saudi Arabia just a giant retirement contract? Was he finally fading out of the competitive spotlight for good? Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, the ultimate goal scorer. Far from just quietly retiring to the desert, his arrival sparked a massive influx of top-tier talent to the Middle East, and it completely solidified his legacy as the most adaptable weapon in football history. In May 2024, after scoring 35 league goals in a single campaign for Al Nassr, he achieved something literally no male footballer has ever done before. He became the very first player to finish as the top scorer in 4 different leagues: England, Spain, Italy, and Saudi Arabia. And his longevity? It's just as staggering as his goal output. 1,225. That represents the record for the most top-level matches played by any male professional footballer. Through major heart surgery, relentless critics, massive tactical shifts, and the immense physical toll of the sport, he has remained out there on the pitch, competing at the highest levels, way longer than anyone else. So with over 970 goals to his name, and the meters still running, what is his final legacy going to be as he chases the 2026 World Cup at 41 years old? Will his relentless, obsessed drive result in the ultimate fairy tale ending? Or is his legacy already untouchable regardless of what happens next? It's definitely something to think about.